Hello and welcome to Africa Today. I am Esther Mokwariola. In the last 2.5 decades, Africa has witnessed regular democratic processes where elections are often free but largely unfair, relatively peaceful but rarely credible. Going by latest developments, it is safe to say that June 12th literally came before this year's June the 12th, with a journey back in time taking us back to 25 years ago, when Nigeria conducted what has been adjudged the freest and fairest presidential election in the nation's history, won by Chief MKO Abiola. And so we ask, what are your thoughts on Nigerian government's decision to mark June the 12th as Democracy Day, henceforth, and immortalizing MKO Abiola? You can join the conversation and share your thoughts with us on Twitter at TVC News NG. We take a report now, and Africa Today will be right back. Welcome on board.
The Senate had earlier thanked President Muhammadu Buhari for honoring Abiola, Kingibe, and foremost human rights and pro-democracy activist Chief Gani Fahimi. It also agreed with the presidency that henceforth, June 12 should be celebrated as Nigeria's Democracy Day, but noted that despite the new developments, May 29th remains the official day for handover and inauguration of new governments.
I congratulate Nigeria for this very important achievement. President MKO Abiola is my constituent. I believe Mr. President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria needs further encouragement to continue this reconciliation that he started.
Finally, we are beginning to address injustices in this country. Our prayer is that this must be sustained. The 9th of May remains the day the president will be inaugurated and will take his oath of office. If we are moving from 29th of May to 12th of June, it means we have to amend this constitution.
Other senators commended the federal government for recognizing the works of foremost human rights and pro-democracy activist Gani Fahimi.
This is the time
it is low.
to be properly announced by INEC, because government is a continuum, and declare President MKO Abiola as a president.
My angle to this is the honor that was also bestowed on late Gani Fahimi. Everybody knew how greatly this man fought for democracy in this country.
Prayer 1, announce the results of the election. Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Ensure that all allowances and entitlements to the family of Chief MKO Abiola and Kingibe as well be made available to them. Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it.
Senator Dino Melaye had earlier expressed reservations that the National Honors Act was not fully obeyed by the presidency. But Senate President Bukola Saraki said the good intentions of the decision far outweighs the defects and that the process will be corrected later. Somna Sambu, TVC News, Abuja.
Welcome back. June the 12th, 1993 is widely regarded as a watershed in Nigeria's political history, in a vote that was meant to ensure the exit of military from power with arms wide for democratic governance. In an unprecedented manner, Nigerians largely defied religious bias, ethnic sentiments, and regional considerations to deliver an election that didn't matter in the end, and the president the nation never had after all. Joining me in the studio on Africa Today, I have Professor Anthony Killer, Director, Center for International Advanced Professional Studies. And on Skype, I have Namaka Obiariri, Policy Analyst and a Social Commentator. Good to have you both on the program.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
Right, let me begin with you now, Professor. This decision by the President to announce MKO Abiola, or to announce June 12th as Democracy Day, as against May 29.
Yes.
Some have said it is more of a tactic.
Yes.
But how timely, let's begin with that. How timely do you think this declaration is?
Well, let us say, personally, I think it's a good thing to do.
Right.
That is the crucial thing. I think to look at it very well, we shall have to, there are 3 strands of considerations to be made on this to have a full approach. There is the citizen consumer approach of people who wanted June 12th, and they've gotten it, the recognition of June 12th, and they say, hurrah, hallelujah, it's done. You know, that's one strand. Then there is the strand of perhaps the scholar, people who do not consume historical events just as it comes. You know, they sit down to look at what is it, why has it been done, how has it been done, what is the reason behind it. When you look at that, your question, and indeed some suspicions that people express to say that a government that is 3 quarters to the end of its tenure and a few months to the end of his coming to elections might have some hidden agenda. What is that agenda? To try to assuage those who have been clamoring for this recognition, perhaps to try to neutralize the ideological opposition of progressive who see June 12th as a symbol of their stance.
Right.
And perhaps to sideline the block of generals, past presidents and past leaders that seems to be coming up against him. All those reasons are legitimate, they're very possible. But let us say one thing, it's a good thing that the presidency has done this. I say presidency because this move does not sound very Buhari-esque. I think it's more people around him. So let's say presidency, but it's still good, whoever and however. A scholar will also notice the way in which the announcement was made. Unlike the constant trend of this presidency, in which there are press releases signed by special advisors, this was signed personally by the president. So it tells you on another stage in which the presidency is sort of coming around to be more proactive and doing things that are popular. I liken these things if you listen to the radio. If you listen to the radio constantly, they play a lot of kind of music. Many of them you don't like. But when they want to advertise a program, a product, they always play good music. So it tells you that in a way they know what is good and what is popular, and they just do the time. And that's what the president has done. Now, for the opposition, and this is the 3rd strand, you know, the consumer, citizen, the scholar, and the opposition. The opposition will see what is wrong with it. That is a wrong way to look at it. This is a good thing, and regardless of the reason behind it, this is what democracy is about.
Right.
I wish other people will, for political reasons, find good causes to embrace, good projects to execute, good needy part of the population to support, even if it's political reason. I wish for political reasons somebody will fix the light and somebody will fix the road. It doesn't matter. But what the opposition should do, if they're not lazy, is to ask for more. It can be argued that this has come late, which is true. It can be argued that more can be done. For example, I agree with those people in the Senate, and all of a sudden, the legislature is becoming the real voice of opposition in Nigeria. It is true that the next step to go is to actually declare him kill the president and give him a space. Perhaps call him the president that never ruled. I advocate, part of the movement I belong to, the June 12 movement, for example, that if this is going to be done, let us make sure that June 12 is taught in our schools. For example, as a concept to see, because so that Nigerians can understand that there was a time in the life of this country that everybody, regardless of religion, ethnic background, as you rightly noticed, came together. And it is good to look for that spirit of June 12, because in reality, we don't really have that ethos, that founding moment, and June 12 can be that moment.
Right. Well said. Now, let's quickly come to you now, Obiareri. Do you share the same sentiments, or you have a different opinion with regards to what Prof just said?
Less than that. And I'm of the school of thought. I share the sentiment of the National Assembly. Whether the pronouncement was done for political mileage or whatever that is worth doing well. I expect the federal government of Nigeria to go on the hog altruistically to do it the right way. The next thing to do now is to declare the result of June 12, 1993, formally pronounce MKO Abiola as the elected president of Nigeria, gazette it as required by law, and put his name in the list of former heads of states of Nigeria. And the Muhammadu Buhari should also go the next step in other nations where this kind of thing happened, if you go to India, if you go to Pakistan, the next thing he should do is Buhari should not contest 2019 election. He should nominate the scion of the Abiola family as a way of full restitution. Kola Abiola is still alive. He's heavily qualified to be president of Nigeria. APC can go ahead to nominate him as their flag bearer. Let him govern for one term. The opportunity his father did not have. The freest and fairest election. MKO was loved nationwide, won across all the zones of Nigeria. So the next thing that the federal government of Nigeria should do, gazette it, put him in the Hall of Fame as the former president that never would, and then APC should give their ticket to Kola Abiola to run, even if it is for one time, to do those things his father could not do. That is what I think should be the right thing to be done.
All right, let me hold your thought for now, Obiari. We need to go on a very quick break. You're watching Africa Today, and we've been looking at Nigeria's government's latest decision to mark June the 12th as Democracy Day, henceforth, and immortalize MKO Abiola. Welcome back. On June the 11th, 1994, MKO Abiola delivered the Ekpetedo Proclamation, addressing the mismanagement of the economy by the military and their ceaseless quest for power. The impassioned speech angered the military, and in a typical fashion, Abiola was arrested, imprisoned and prosecuted for 4 years until his death on July the 7th, 1998. Now, Professor Killer, let's look at the election that's held in June 12, 1993.
Yes.
It was adjudged the freest, the fairest,
And the most peaceful.
and the most peaceful.
Yes.
And this is something that Nigeria is yet to have.
Again.
Exactly. But there's something that still puts to mind what happened. It was an option A4 process
Yes.
that was adopted, and it was a two-party structure.
Yes.
So that made it perhaps, the freest of all.
Yes.
But right now we have multi-party system.
Yes.
And the style of election, it's far from credible.
Yes.
So with this two in mind, would you think we should go back to what we adopted in June, in 1993, so we can have a replica of what happened then in our elections coming up in 2019?
The short answer is no.
Why?
We don't need to do that. It is not the process that corrupts people.
Right.
It is people that corrupt the process. It is true that the election then was simpler, but it is not because there were two parties. I mean, the idea of imposing two parties is not democratic, it's not practical, and it violates a lot of human rights. It makes no sense. There must be freedom of association. If we want a corrupt-free election, what we need to do, it's just simple things that we just don't do them. For example, we need to cap the amount of money people can spend on politics. We need to make sure it's violence-free. There's a very, simple mentality that we've not said in Nigeria. To make a rule to say, thou shalt not give out money if you are running for office. Something as simple as that, that's basic. All
And
the
you think it's
countries have
workable
it.
in terms of implementation, because that is a problem as well.
Well, it has to be. I mean, you can't say you will make a law because it's not workable. Laws are not done that way. You make a law and you make sure you enforce it. And then you force people to publicly declare how much they spend. And you jail a few people when they violate this law. It's as simple as that. So the option of an artificial sort of surgical operation on the same number of parties doesn't work. The reason why there are parties is that people are not happy with the existing parties in any place. We all looked at the United States and England and think they have two parties. It's not true. They have a lot of parties. The only thing that happens is that the main parties are the one people associate with. And they do so based on popular decision, not kind of top-down decision, instruction for them. That said, one thing must also be said, and this is part of why the June 12th is a special moment in our history. People were peaceful because one thing united everybody then, the desire to get rid of the military. Everybody, those who are, besides reading it in the textbooks, those who are old enough to have lived that period will remember very well that the common theme from Lagos to Kano, from Sokoto to Calabar,
Was to get the
was that
military out.
just let these khaki people go, let the military go. So people were just, please don't spoil it. Why? You see, because before then, they had found a way, they found different way to annul the system, to postpone it. So when this system came out, it's okay, we're going to do this one. There was a general consensus. that consensus was that let's not give them an excuse. There are two lessons to be taken away from June 12 today. The first lesson of what happened 25 years ago, that is to the political class, to know that if there is a consensus on dignity, a consensus on decorum, and a consensus on a level of democracy, things can be done properly, as long as they don't chide themselves.
Right.
The second lesson to be learned by the people is that people should not give up. That it might not be immediately, but if you believe in a principle, if you believe in a concept, keep pushing for it. This idea of people thinking that there's no need to vote because the vote will not count, there's no need to participate because it will not affect. What has happened yesterday, what has happened with this proclamation of the president, shows that if you push, you can get results at the time. And it's a victory of hope, doggedness, and vision against a spirit of obtuseness,
Right.
against a spirit of indifference, and against cowardice. Because in this country, some people have the vision and the doggedness to keep pushing for June 12. Some people were too simple-minded to understand the value of June 12, and some people were just indifferent. Some people could appreciate it, they were sensitive to it, but they didn't have the courage to recognize June 12. Today it is a victory of vision, hope, and doggedness against that bad side of Nigeria. It's a victory of the good Nigeria.
A victory for a good Nigeria indeed. Obiareri, if you were to take a cue from what Professor just said, what do you think the government of this present time should do to ensure that the people believes in its mandate, the people believes in its ability to deliver that change that it promised, about 3 years ago?
I seem to disagree with that with the prof on some elements of what he said.
All right.
System is a robust system helps to put people in check. Have you bothered to ask yourself this question? How come Nigerians, as they are coming from Heathrow, London to Nigeria, at the Heathrow airport, they behave themselves, they are very orderly, but once they enter into Nigeria, like I said, there's a bedlam. System failure, institutional failure. Let me tell you, June 12 was a watershed. June 12 option A4 is what we should all be looking back at. Do you know what option A4 entails? Option A4 involved the participation of every member of the political party, every registered member of SDP and NRC in nominating candidates. One of the greatest things that happened, one of the worst thing that happened to us was the jettisoning of that option A4. In option A4, every registered card-carrying member of the party, just like in general election, participates in determining who will be the candidate of the party. Remember, option A4, under option A4, Sheikh Musa Yar'Adua defeated Jokonde even in Lagos. Option A4, one of the greatest ones is the issue of delegate election. That is why you saw what happened in APC Congress. Delegate list being stolen, a result sheet disappearing, because what they simply do is that they will collect names of those that they will manipulate. They will share money. Have you ever gone to Congress of either APC or PDP or any of the political parties? It's always like a bazaar. Envelopes and dollars being shared. But option A4 simply means every card-carrying member of a political party will be allowed to vote.
I think
in this way and manner, money election is reduced to the barest.
I think we should just clarify ourselves so that we're not arguing.
All right, just hold on, Obiareri. Just hold on. Let's hear your thoughts.
I think let's clarify so that we're not arguing on things. What you have just described very well
Go ahead.
What you've described very well, in a very good way, is called direct primaries. It doesn't have to be option A4. That is direct primaries in which all members participate in the choice of candidates. That is what is done in some countries, presidential system like the US. Some European countries, they use delegates, but that does not make them rig and bribe and go violent. To the good observation he made, why do Nigerians behave well in one context and behave badly in another context? It's very simple, because there's consequence. In this country that we look up to, if there were no consequence, people would behave badly. The reason why Europeans, whether British, Italian, German, or other people behave in a better way is not because of the tea they drink or the pasta they eat. It's because they know that if you break the law, you'll be caught and you'll pay. And the law is clear, is transparent, and is rapid. That's a very crucial thing. Nobody gets arrested for 2-3 years and there's no trial. It's a very quick thing, and you will see yourself. And you have grants to appeal it and to protest it, and a third party that reads it will actually see where the guilty party is. And it's efficient, and we have to think that way. There's nothing, you see, this idea that Nigeria needs a special system, I totally reject it.
So what's your point now?
My point is, if they want to do direct primaries, as they're saying, there's nothing wrong with that. But the idea of voters, the idea of an artificial construction that says we must have 2 or 3 parties is not democratic.
All right.
The idea of people actually lining up to vote is not democratic. The vote must be secret. What you need to do is to take power away from those who can corrupt the system.
Obiari, I hope he has made his point clear to you now.
I totally disagree. Transparency, openness will help to destroy election rigging in Nigeria. Let me tell you, one of the greatest problems, see, people will vote. At the end of the day, at the collection center, they will change the results. If we strengthen the processes, if we strengthen the system, why do you think it was easy for us to checkmate the issue of ghost workers in the system? It was through the IPPS. We need to strengthen the system. We need to strengthen the processes. We need to strengthen the institutions. Option A4, throughout, if you look at, that is the fairest and the freest election ever conducted in Nigeria. The election that was conducted by Babangida with Henry Mosu. Nigerians must go back to what works for us.
All right, in fairness to that, Obiari,
the whole governance structure, the whole architectural structure of Nigeria to make it work.
All right, in fairness to that, let me quickly get another issue now on this matter. Now, we're talking about change. You're talking about a new hope for Nigeria, and this government promises a new hope for the country. And now with this development, one would say that perhaps the APC government is trying to change the narratives of what it has been known for, not well living up to its responsibility or to its promises of delivering change. Now that this government has put a step forward in terms of, declaring June the 12th as Democracy Day, what other things are you expecting of them to do, even though they have about some few months to go for the next election?
To be honest with you, the pronouncement, the recognition of June 12th as Democracy Day and the posthumous award to MKO Abiola, we know is just intended to gain political mileage. We expect this government, it's 3 years down the line,
right.
The records are there. They failed practically on all the indices. Economy, they failed. Security, they failed. Nigerians are killed every day. Last week, every day in Nigeria, at least 20 to 30 people are killed. So if you look at the core promises of the APC government, security, anti-corruption fight, even the economy, they've failed. So what they've done is the right thing, but that is not enough to convince Nigerians. We expect them to go forward to see it is too late. I think it is too late. We just have less than nine months before the election. Let Nigerians decide what they want to do. I think the best thing for them to do, just like they rightly pointed out, go ahead and complete the restitution. Nominate Kola Abiola as the candidate of APC. Kola Abiola is amply qualified, educationally, experience-wise, to govern Nigeria. Let him do the next 4 years on behalf of his father. Thank you.
All right, I'd like to thank you very much, Obiari, for your contribution on Africa Today. But before I let you go, Prof, any last words?
No, when I think, I'm more interested in people, normal people, more than the powerful people. I think people need to develop the idea that the voice of the people and the power of the people can beat the people of power. And the way to do it is to focus each time on what is good for individuals and find a legitimate way to do it.
Right.
So that we don't fall into the idea of personalizing things. I want to remember 2 people, just before we go, 2 sets of people.
Right.
You see, the June 12th, it is about Abiola because it's a symbol of it, but it goes beyond the man. The June 12th is a moment that has a lot to do with the history of Nigeria as a people.
Right.
And just like MKO Abiola, who's a symbol of it, there's a lot more people who have laid that time, their resources, their idea, and some even their life. And just before we go, just a very quick roll call in less than a minute. I'd like to remember some names like Frank Kokori, who's still alive, Becker and some Kuti, who's not, Gani Fawemi, who's somewhere there, Wole Soyinka, the likes of those kind of people
and a lot
who have
more.
and a lot more,
right.
who have done a lot. And my feeling goes, there's one thing that needs to be said. People talk about the Abiola family and retribution for them. It's not enough. It's really just symbolic.
Right.
Because when we talk about June 12 for Nigeria, for some families in Nigeria, June 12th was the day the troubles of their life started.
All right, let's leave it at that point. Thank you very much, Professor Anthony Killer, for your contribution on Africa Today. And I'd like to thank also again Nameka Obiareri, policy analyst and social commentator, for your insights on Africa Today.
Thank you.
25 years ago, June 12 saw some sort of electric hope grip a nation until the story took a sudden turn, ensuring that the Nigeria many expected would emerge post-military rule remains a dazzling mirage. While Nigeria finds itself at crossroads ahead of the upcoming 2019 general election, now is the best time to utilize the lessons and legacies of the past as a tool to reshape democratic values and reawaken national consciousness. And that is our package for today. But don't forget to join the conversation as usual on Twitter at TVC News NG, and also follow me for updates around Africa at Esther TVC News. Until the next one, I am Esther Omokwariola, and always remember, Africa can only get better.